Hello, and welcome to episode 79 of 10,000 Stitches podcast, a weekly chit chat all about the joys of small scale knitting. My name is Andy, and if you were looking for me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry as Purlbug, Purlbug. You can find my blog at thepurlbug.com, and then we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast group on Ravelry. If you're looking for links to anything that I mentioned today, any patterns, shops, whatever might be linked. If you are watching this on the embedded video on the blog or the Ravelry thread, everything will be linked right below the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description box below the video, there will be a link to the blog post. You can go there and then find everything linked right below the video. I'm currently recording on Sunday, November 5th, and this episode will go up on Tuesday, November 7th, which is election day here in the US, so hope you get out and vote. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to or not, but we will see. Not because I'm a horrible person, but just because I don't really know much about the candidates who are running here in Virginia, and I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to have enough time to find out anything. We'll see. Anyway, hope you voted. But yeah, we are going to do sort of the normal format today. We'll do finished objects, works in progress, what's coming up next. I actually might talk a little bit, sort of expand on my what's coming up next to just sort of like future dreaming sort of things, or, maybe a little bit longer term what's coming up. And then we will do a question of the week if I can think of one, and we'll talk about the knit along, and then we'll do chit chat. So before I get started, I wanted to mention this. So it's November, and as you may or may not know, depending on how long you've been watching the podcast, I work in an academic environment. I work at a university, and so I tend to think of my life in terms of semesters, and so we're past the halfway point for fall semester, and we are coming up rapidly on the end of fall semester, and so things are just getting a little bit crazy in just sort of my life in general, especially too with the holidays and stuff coming up and travel and stuff like that. So I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to be podcasting every week, but I'm also not going to say that I will be podcasting every week until the end of the year. I guess if I don't put up an episode for a week, it's just because I probably didn't get a lot of knitting done and had nothing to say, and I'll probably be back the next week. I will make sure that I podcast at least every other week, but if you don't see something from me every week, that's why. I am planning on doing Vlogmas in December. I always really want to do it, and I never really commit to it and do it. This year I really want to do it, even if they're just really short little vlogs, like, a couple minutes. I really enjoyed watching people who did Vlogtober, and so I want to get in on it for Vlogmas. So, that'll probably supplement it, especially in December when life gets really crazy. But let's talk about some knitting. Finished objects. I actually don't have any newly finished objects to show you guys, but I did think I would show you this. This is my scrap shawl, which I showed a long time ago, and it's only been really recently that I've actually properly finished it and started wearing it. So yeah, just to recap, this is just a bias shawl, a garter bias shawl that I made using up a whole bunch of scraps of different yarns. I can really quickly go through them, I guess. This is the cast on side. This is PhD yarns in their Quantum Dots colorway. This is my hand-dyed yarn that I dyed up last Christmas. This is Knit Picks Felici in the Time Traveler colorway. This green is my hand-dyed yarn that I used to make my poly. This kind of golden color is Cascade Heritage sock, and I used it to make the Viking socks forever ago. This pink is, again, a hand-dyed yarn by me. I used this to make a pussy hat for Wesley's mother. This is, again, the same stripe as this. These stripes are Knit Picks Felici in the, I think it's Nassau colorway, maybe. This sort of grayish color is one of my hand-dyed yarns that I used to make a pair of blueberry waffle socks that I called my Cloudy Day socks. This rainbow is Knit Picks Felici in the Dark Side colorway. This is some more of that PhD yarns in the Quantum Dots. The orange is another Cascade Heritage sock in the Pumpkin colorway, I think. I used it to make the Melisandre socks forever ago. This sort of silvery gray is another Cascade Heritage. I used this to make the Longing for Spring socks for my mom a while ago. This is Knit Picks Stroll what is it, Nipixtrol hand paints or Nipixtrol tonal or something in the Northern Lights colorway. I used this to make a pair of socks for Wesley's mother. And then again, this is that hot pink that I used for the pussy hat. So I had all of that done a long time ago, and I just got really lazy about like what was I going to do with all the ends, because of course a scrap shawl just has a ton of ends, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with them, because I also wanted this shawl to be reversible, so I didn't want to have to worry about like which side did I weave in the ends on and stuff like that. So the sort of finishing that I have done recently is I did this very bright sort of lime green. It's getting blown out on camera, but this lime green just line of slip crochet stitches along the long edge, just to sort of give it a little bit more structure, since garter stitch, especially along the bias, is so stretchy. So that just gives it a little bit of structure along the top. And I only had, I think, maybe 2 ends that were along this top edge. Most of them were along this other edge. So that just sort of gave me a way to hide those ends and just give it a little bit more structure. So then most of my ends were along this edge, where you see this, you don't see the fringe because it's curling around. Where you see this fringe, that's where most of my ends were. And I, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought about maybe doing it again, a line of crochet along that edge, and it just wasn't really going to work because that edge I did want to be stretchy. So I decided that I was just going to cheat, and I basically took all the ends, all the places where I joined 2 colors, and I just literally tied a knot in the ends, and then I put on the fringe to hide the knots. And so that is my, and plus it used up some extra yarn, right? Like I used up the entire rest of that hot pink yarn, and I used up some other yarns that I just had sitting around. So again, kind of in the spirit of the scrap shawl. And then I obviously put some extra, little bits of fringe in to just sort of make it a little bit more even. And then to even it out on the other side, I put a tassel on this other end. It's not my best tassel, but, and I'm thinking about changing this. I'm thinking it actually would look really cute with a pom-pom there, but I just didn't have the right supplies to make a pom-pom at that time, so I figured a tassel would work. But yeah, now that this is done, I am super duper loving it. It's obviously really big, super stretchy, super squishy, and so I've been really just loving it to just sort of, wear bandana style like I tend to wear these sorts of shawls. And yeah, I've been getting a lot of wear out of it. And the nice thing is because it's scrappy, it goes with every outfit. So it's more so, is the weather appropriate to wear it rather than is my outfit appropriate? So yeah, I wanted to show that off just because it is now done. And I hadn't shown it in a while, and now I'm wearing it. So I'm very excited about this. So that's, I guess, my only sort of finished object, even though it's not really, I'm going to count it, right? We're going to count this as a finished object. But that's the finished object I have for this week. So let's talk about works in progress. Let's talk about my sock work in progress. So these are the Fizzy Pumpkin Drink socks, what I'm calling the Fizzy Pumpkin Drink socks. The pattern is Effervesce by Pearlescent, and this is the finished one. I've shown this off before, but this is sort of what that looks like. It's this sort of cable pattern that, runs up the length of the sock and sort of looks like bubbles. The yarn that I'm using for this is a 100% BFL 4-ply. This is one of my hand-dyed yarns in the That Pumpkin Drink colorway. And so I'm calling these my Fizzy Pumpkin Drink socks. And this is, I'm making the 72 stitch size on a US size 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. Really loving it. And so this is that's the finished one. Let's show you the one that's in progress, actually. Oh, I'm dropping things. So this is the one that's in progress. As you can see, I have the heel in, and I actually think I'm a few rows past finishing up the gusset decreases. So that's where I am. And I'm chugging along on the foot chart. The nice thing about the foot chart is now, you're only cabling on one side of the sock. And, like I've mentioned before, most of the cabling happens sort of at the top of the sock, and you can see it's decreasing as you go up the foot. So pretty soon I will be to the point where I'm actually not doing any cabling anymore. And you can see it on this one. I will just be continuing sort of the twisted rib sort of thing that's going on. And the pattern actually doesn't have you continue it all the way down to the toes. I decided to do that just because I thought it would look more cohesive than having sort of a line at the toe. But yeah, I'm really loving it. I've been working on these at work. So, maybe I'll get this one finished up this week. That would be really nice if I did. But if I don't, I don't. But that's my sock work in progress right now. So let's talk a little bit then about my poly, which is my sweater work in progress, I guess. I think when I showed this off last week, I was on the ribbing for the bottom, but I think at that point I had started doing the ribbing one way and I was going to redo it a different way. So I have made a lot of progress since then. I definitely had hoped that I would have finished it by now, which I have not, but I have made a lot of progress. So obviously I have finished the ribbing at the bottom. I did wind up taking out the 1x1 twisted rib that I'd started, and I did a 2x2 rib instead, which I just think looks a lot better. I don't know, the 1x1 rib just was looking sloppy. So what else have I done? I have finished the first sleeve, although I actually, yeah, there we go. So I finished the first sleeve, and you know, it's funny, I completely forgot like just who I am and how I like to wear sweaters when I was knitting this. And so I knit a long sleeve, but I actually think I'm probably going to wind up ripping this sleeve back. I'm working on the second sleeve right now, and I'm thinking I probably don't actually want long sleeve because I don't tend to wear things long sleeved. As you can see, even when I'm wearing things that are long sleeved, like this is a long sleeve shirt, I tend to pull the sleeves up to about this point in my arms because I just don't like things touching my wrists and the back of my hands. Like, it just really bothers me. And so the only time I can really wear like totally long sleeved things is when I'm wearing them sort of like as a jacket. Like, I was walking around outside earlier and I had the sleeves of this jacket pulled down and I had my hands in my pockets because then I needed it for the warmth. But otherwise, I really hate wearing long sleeve things. So yeah, I will probably wind up ripping the sleeve back to, instead of being 21 inches long, which is about as long as it needs to be to come to about here on me, I will probably take it back to about 15 inches, which is, we'll put it right about here, past my elbows, but not, you know, close to my wrists. So I'm definitely going to, you know, try that out, obviously, on the second sleeve and see how I like it, and make sure that that's what I want before I rip the other one out. But yeah, I'm on the second sleeve. I mentioned this last week, but I'll talk about the details again. So this is loosely based on the Poly pattern, or the Poly cardigan by Isabel Kramer. I've already knit one of those, which actually, funny enough, I washed this afternoon and it is currently in the other room drying, so I could maybe wear it tomorrow or the next day. But yeah, this is based off of that Poly cardigan, which is just this sort of, you know, light, easy V-neck cardigan. And so I have made a fair number of changes to it. I am doing it in reverse stockinette, so you can see this is the outside, so this is the reverse stockinette. I also did not do the V-neck increases so that it will be an open front cardigan. I have changed up, so the Poly has you doing a garter stitch sort of hem and everything on it. I'm doing 2x2 rib. I'm adding these sort of seams, these spots for seams along the side. I know I've talked about this before. I'll try and link to the blog post that I read about it, but I read a blog post about like seaming seamless sweaters and kind of, you know, using the niceness of knitting a seamless sweater, because, you know, you can try it on and all of that, and combining that with the sort of structure and durability of a seamed sweater by sort of adding in these seams. So I'll try and link to that blog post, but that's the technique I'm planning to use. So those are sort of built in, and those I have actually framed in knit stitches, just, you know, to kind of create, I don't know, a faux seam effect. I thought it'd be a nice detail since it otherwise is a very sort of plain basic cardigan. So I can put it on. I mean, there's not much to see in it really right now, but I can show you guys sort of what it looks like. Unfortunately, you know, because it's reverse stockinette and I don't have the neckband on yet, it is just curling like crazy around the front. So it's really kind of tough to show off, but you can see it's really sort of wide around the shoulders, and I'm hoping that will be remedied by putting on a nice wide neckband. But yeah, you can see this one sleeve, I don't like it. I'm gonna take it back to about here, I think. So yeah, but otherwise, it's very blue. It's caught on things. But yeah, it is very blue, and I'm very excited to, you know, hopefully get the neckband in sooner rather than later so I can actually get a good picture of what it's going to be like. But it's meant to be open front, so I think it will be perfect for that. Just sort of something light and very wearable and very easy to wear. I am currently have about this much left of one of the balls. I used up the other ball all the way to the end, and then I have this third ball, which probably has about 90 grams left in it, at least. I had to break into it to do just this cuff of this sleeve, but I otherwise haven't used it. So especially if I'm going to shorten the sleeves, I think that will be plenty to put a nice wide collar on it. But I want to, you know, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous that I'm going to run out of yarn, but especially if I'm going to shorten up the sleeves, I think I should be fine. But hopefully this will be done by the next time you guys see me. Like I said, I'm making good progress on it, and I'm very motivated to get it finished up because I'm not letting myself start anything else until this gets finished. And plus I just really want it to wear. I am knitting this on US size 4s, which are a 3.5 millimeter needle. And I am knitting, I think I'm sort of using the stitch counts for the medium size, but like I said, I've heavily modified it, and especially if it doesn't really have to close, it's, you know, less of a sizing issue. But I think I'm using the stitch counts for the medium size. Like I said, once I finish it, I will probably put more detailed notes on Ravelry. Right now I'm just sort of keeping track of things for myself on there, but I will try and put more detailed notes on Ravelry about the modifications that I made once it's done. Hold me to that if I don't. But yeah, that's that. And let's start talking about some things that I want to come up next. So I talked a little bit about this. Let's put the sweatshirt on and then talk, since we obviously can't do two things at once. Anyway, I talked a little bit about this last week, about how I'm sort of doing this project for this year of me being 28 years old, called my hashtag year of hand knits. And I've been posting pictures to Instagram. Each day I've been trying to wear one hand knit thing, mostly socks. But you know, this is sort of an effort to get me to wear hand knits on a more consistent basis, and also to motivate me to knit more things for myself to wear. And part of this that I didn't talk about last week, but part of this challenge too, is that I would like to knit myself 10 garments over the next year. And you know, this cardigan is obviously sort of the first step in that, but I want to have more wearable things in my wardrobe that are not just socks. I mean, I love socks, and I will always be probably working on a pair of socks, but I want to have other things to wear other than the knit socks, because, you know, I don't tend to wear knit socks a lot during the summer. I do sometimes, but you know, I've talked before, I work in a building that is very cold all year round, and so having lots of nice like cardigans, or you know, even nice big shawls is a very good thing for me, because in the summer there's something that I can have at work and put on at work and then take off, you know, before I leave to go outside and sweat my head off. But so for me, those kinds of things are very wearable things sort of year round. And in a way that like pullovers are not, you'll probably not see me knitting very many pullover sweaters, although I do have a couple that I'd like to make. But you know, for me, pullovers are not nearly as wearable as things like cardigans. I really like things that are easy to take on and off. So the next sort of garment I would like to knit, and again, this is not like the next thing I will be knitting, but this is probably the next garment that I will knit, is I believe I think it's called abalone. And I forget who the designer is, but it's sort of another open front cardigan, because that's very much my style. It's sort of this open front cardigan, and the way the pattern is written, it is just like sort of like short little sleeves. It's a drop sleeve construction, or drop shoulder construction, and it's open front, and then it just has these very thin little sort of short sleeves. So it's sort of more like a vest. But I have seen projects where people have extended the arms, and especially because it's drop shoulder, I don't see why I can't just extend the arms, since it's supposed to be a little bit bigger and looser fitting. So that is sort of the next thing that I would like to make, and it's supposed to be knit with worsted weight yarn on bigger needles, so hopefully it will go a lot faster than my current cardigan. But what I will probably make that out of is some yarn that I've had in my stash for a long time. Sorry. I would like to get out, and that is a whole bunch of this Reggie Highland tweed. And this was gifted to me a while ago, and this is the label for it. It's sort of a sock yarn. It's really more of like a sport weight yarn. Like it's it's thicker even than like Patton's Croy, right? Like it's a heavy sock yarn. So I would probably classify it as a sport weight yarn. It's 54% wool, 28% viscose, and then 18% polyamide or nylon. And it's not like the softest yarn ever, but I think it will work as sort of like a big heavy cardigan. And so I will be working with it doubled up. And I actually already have one ball that I've wound together from 2 of these skeins, and you can see this is how big it is. And these are 150 gram skeins too. So I have, I think, 6 skeins in this same colorway. This is 2 of them. I have another 2 of them in this bag, and then I have 2 more over on my shelf. So I believe that will be enough yardage to make this sweater. And if not, I have another couple skeins in a similar blue colorway that I could stripe in with it. But I mean, yeah, so you can see this is it's sort of a self-striping yarn, but it's more of like a subtle self-striping yarn. But I think this will work well for that sweater. It'll be something very casual, sort of. Plus, I'm going to knit it on US size 9s, and so it should be super easy and quick to whip up. And it will, you know, bust through some stash, which will be very good. So that's like a garment I have my eye on. I would also like to knit some summer sort of garments, like the, oh, what is it? There's like the short sleeve circular yoke top by Pearl Soho. I forget what it's called. I'll put it somewhere down here. But there's that sort of short sleeve top. I think that would be very nice. I would like to maybe knit that in linen because I've never knit with linen before. I have some other sweaters and things. Actually, another sweater by Pearl Soho is the botanical yoke top, which I'll put a picture in because it is just an amazing sweater. And, you know, I just said I'm not a huge fan of pullovers, but that is a pullover that I probably would knit because that is like really sort of like a statement piece, and that's like a piece that is sort of like bam and like makes an outfit, you know, by itself. And so that's one that I would really love to knit. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about some things that are imminently coming up next. So my next sock project is going to be socks using my Christmas colorway, which is the chocolate peppermint bark. I really want to get these made in November because for one thing, I want to have them to wear during the Christmas season. And for another thing, and this is going to sound really stupid, but you know, I said I want to do Vlogmas, and I've been thinking sort of about like the title screen that I want to have for Vlogmas because I kind of want to have the same title screen for all the episodes. And I was thinking, how cool would it be to have these socks finished and like, you know, have them on blockers and as part of this sort of like Christmas picture for my title screen. I know it's really dumb, but anyway, I want to do that. So I want to get these knit up. These will probably be the next thing I knit at work after I finish up the fizzy pumpkin drink socks. And I think I'm just going to knit them vanilla. And so they should be a pretty quick knit. And that way I'll have them to wear for December because I've already busted out my Christmas socks from last year because there's no shame in my Christmas game. I know a lot of people really love Halloween. Christmas is much more my jam. So that's probably the next pair of socks that I'm going to knit. And then after I finish up my cardigan, I'm actually going to be making a project for Wesley's mother. She requested, well, she really likes that pumpkin drink colorway and requested just like a big, squishy, super cozy shawl made with it. And so I got busy dyeing some of it up, and these were actually my last 3 skeins of this 2-ply base that I have, so I need to order some more yarn soon for more dyeing because my shelf over there that has all my yarn on it is looking a little empty because there's not a lot of bare yarn left on it. But anyway, I dyed up 3 skeins, and the shawl that I'm planning on making her is the Dotted Rays shawl, which is a Stephen West pattern, and it's one that I've had my eye on for myself for quite a while, so it's totally a good one to knit and, you know, buy the pattern, and then if I like it, I'll make another one for myself. But it's, you know, it's a big shawl, and I thought that it would look kind of weird just like as one solid color. I mean, yeah, like this yarn is tonal and everything, but I thought it would just be like too much to have it just one solid color. So I decided I would sort of do like a subtle saturation gradient, or what I call a saturation gradient, basically the same color but getting, you know, going from like less saturated to more saturated. So this is what the 3 skeins that I'm going to use look like, and they're getting a little blown out from the camera or the light, but you can sort of see. So this is the lightest one over here to the darkest one over here, so you can sort of see that gradient there. And The nice thing is that it is a fairly subtle gradient, so it's not going to be like harsh lines or anything. I should be able to blend it really well throughout the shawl. But yeah, I am really pleased with it. And I'm just super excited to get that thing going. So the way that these are in terms of saturation is this is the full strength mix. This middle one is 3/4, and then this end one is 1/2. So you can see sort of how subtle that is. But yeah, I'm just super duper excited to start that. And like I said, if I enjoy the process of knitting it and enjoy the finished product, of course I will give her this one, but I may wind up making one for myself as well. Yeah. And then obviously I really want to get my exploration station as well. Speaking of Stephen West, I would really like to get my exploration station made sooner rather than later, to the point where I've even filled up this project bag with all the skeins of yarn for it, right? They're all in there, even with the needles. I forgot I even put the needles in there for it. So they're all in there. The gang's all here. I would really like to get it made. So I think that's probably what I will cast on. We'll see. I will probably do the dotted rays, and then I'll probably do the abalone, and then I'll probably do this. Because my guess is that after the dotted rays, I will be a little shawled out, and we'll probably want something different. So that's probably how things are going to look for a little while. I apologize in that last clip if you heard my phone go off. That was my timer. I'm currently making some beef stew for my dinners this week, and that was my timer telling me to check on it. So as soon as I finished recording that clip, I was out in the kitchen checking on it, and yeah, pulled it out of the oven, and now it's sitting on the stovetop reducing a little bit more, so hopefully it'll be okay out there by itself. We'll see. But yeah, I think I forgot to mention this. Today is the, oh my gosh, is it the end of daylight savings time here in the United States? It's really weird how that, like the terminology of that works. But anyways, so today is the day that we set our clocks back an hour, which of course wound up with me waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning because my body doesn't know that the clocks have changed. And it also means that I've been getting hungry an hour too early for everything, right? So I ate lunch at like 10 o'clock this morning. I'm probably going to eat dinner at, I'll maybe try and push it until 5, but we'll see. But that's why I got my dinner going early, because my body's like, no. I don't care what time the clock says it is. This is the time you normally eat, so this is when I'm hungry. So go figure. But let's get back to the yarny things, right? So a little bit of dyeing. I already showed you guys this stuff, which was all dyed up within the past week. 2 other skeins that have been dyed up recently. This actually was dyed when I recorded last time, but it was not dry yet. So this is another skein that I've dyed up recently. This one I'm calling, oh my gosh, what did I call it? Sugar Rush, I think. It's this very bubblegum pink color, which is getting just completely destroyed on camera. But it's this bubblegum pink sort of color, and it's got these little blue speckles in it, and it also has some yellow bits, but I'm not entirely sure that you'll be able to see them. There's a little bit there on the end, you can kind of sort of see that. But this is on my 100% BFL base, and yeah, it was just fun. It's just a fun sort of color. It makes me think of like cotton candy or bubble gum or just disgustingly sugary things with speckles on the end. So that's one. And then another one is this skein, which this is called Blue Christmas, and it's showing up a little bit more green on camera than it is in real life. It's a very sort of like denim-y, indigo-y color. But yeah, I'm calling this Blue Christmas, and it's dyed up on my tweed base. And I really liked it. I wanted something that was sort of a little bit festive, but not like slap you in the face festive, which, I mean, I don't think this colorway is either, but like this is a little bit sort of Christmas specific, whereas this is just a nice blue color. So yeah, this is another thing I did up during the week, and that's it. That's all I got. Like I said, I really need to get some more yarn ordered, but I just have to get motivated to actually do that. So let's move on to question of the week then. And I had a really good question of the week in my head. Shoot. Oh, okay. I remembered. I had a good question of the week in my head when I was out in the kitchen. And I was like, remember this. So my question of the week this week is, have you started thinking about your knitting plans for 2018? Which I know seems like forever away, right? It's barely November. But you know, I've been talking about sort of my plans, and I will probably not be setting any other goals for 2018 because I sort of set them at my birthday and I will just wait until my birthday rolls back around again. But my question is, have you started thinking about that, right? Like it is getting towards the end of the year and the holiday season is looming upon us. And I know that's when people start to think about like sort of the next year as well. So have you started thinking about that? Do you have any just loose ideas on what you maybe would like to do next year? Would you like to knit more garments, knit more socks, knit more from stash, knit less from stash, right? Like, is it a stash building or a stash, what would be the opposite of building? Reducing, a stash reducing year for you? Do you have any thoughts yet? Or if this kicks off your thinking, what are your thoughts on maybe what you'd like to do next year? I feel like it's never too early to start thinking about it, especially because, with the holidays and all the craziness that comes with that, like it just eats up all of your time, I feel like, towards the end of the year and makes it hard to plan for the next year if you're kind of using that as your point to like, maybe restart some things, restart your thinking. So that's my question of the week. And knit along stuff. So we are into our last knit along of 2017. Super exciting. The winner of the previous knit along, the orange or colorwork knit along, is Hooked on Needles, and she won for post number 30, I think it was. It was a little panda colorwork hat. I'll try and put a picture up on the screen. But yeah, congratulations. I've actually already heard from her, so your prize will be out in the mail hopefully before you ever see this episode. But yeah, that was really awesome. Like I said, I don't have the prize yet for the current knit along because I might pick up something when I'm up in Montreal or traveling for the holidays, but I'm sure I will hopefully have it sooner rather than later. But let's talk about what the current knit along is. So hopefully by the time you guys see this, I will have put up the new threads. I don't know why I have such a hard time getting those put up in a timely manner. It's like all I have to do is copy and paste, and yet for some reason I feel such resistance about it. But anyway, I'm hopefully going to get them put up as soon as I get done recording this. But yeah, the theme for this knit along, the color theme is brown or gray. And again, you can be sort of creative in how you interpret that, right? I will let gray go all the way from white to black if that works better for people. And the technique theme is try something new. So it's not really a technique theme because this isn't limited only to new techniques, right? Like you can use try something new to kind of mean whatever, right? So you could try a new technique, right? Something like, brioche, or if you've never done cables or lace or something like that, like by all means, use it to try a new technique. Or you could use it to try a new designer that you've never knit from before. Or you could use it to try a new, sort of category of project, right? Maybe you've never knit a hat before, knit a hat or mittens or something like that. You could use it to try a new, like indie dyer or something that you've never knit with their yarn before. Again, it's wide open, right? I wanted this to be a pretty open, low stress knit along just because, again, it's the holidays. I know that things get crazy at the end of the year, and I wanted people to just enjoy knitting and be able to, take part in the knit along without having to stress about trying, doing something that maybe doesn't fit in with their knitting plans right now. So I figured I'd make it pretty loose and pretty open to do something like that. Otherwise, the rules are the same as normal, right? Between 50 and 150 grams worth of yarn for the finished object. And you can group things together. If you have some smaller things, right, you could group things together. Like if you were knitting ornaments, like you could group ornaments together. That'd be pretty cool. Or like stockings or something, you can group things together. Otherwise, any weight yarn, any sort of category, as long as it fits either the color or the technique theme. So yeah, that's that. And I'm super excited to see the finished objects for this because it's so wide open, and so I think we'll get a good variety of finished objects. And we actually had a lot for the last one, like 60 something, I think, which might be the most we've ever gotten before. I think it was maybe 64 or 63 finished objects, so like that was a lot. So yeah, it'd be pretty cool if we could get more than that even, but I'm super excited to see what comes in, because I'm super excited to see like people who are doing it for the technique. I'm super excited to see like what is new to you. Like what are you trying that's new? Because trying new things is like the best thing ever. So yeah, that's that for the knit along. The threads should be up by the time you guys see this. So head on over and see what other people are doing, show what you're doing, and yeah, I'm excited. But I think that's going to be it for the knitting sort of things this week. So if that's all you were here for, thanks very much for hanging out, and I will see you next week. Otherwise, we can do a little bit of chit chat. So let's see, what have I been up to? I've been a very busy bee working this past week, but other than that, I went to go see one of my favorite comedians this past week, who is John Mulaney, and I'll maybe try and link a clip of his stand-up in the links for this episode. I'll try and find something that's like really squeaky clean. He's not a very vulgar comedian, but like I do like to try and keep my podcast pretty clean, and I like to make sure that anything I link is also pretty clean, just in case you're watching this with kids around. But yeah, he is just one of my favorite comedians, and he happened to be doing a show at a theater which is right on campus. So it's not part of campus, it just happens to be right there. I can like see it from where I work. And so I bought these tickets forever ago, like over the summer or something, back when we didn't know if Wesley was going to be here still or not. And so I bought 2 tickets, you know, hoping he'd be here or he'd be close enough to come and go with me. Obviously that is not the case. So, which I mean is fine, right? Like that's a possibility that we knew was there. So I wound up taking a friend of mine and we had a great time. It was really fun and just a really great comedy show. Like he's just one of those comedians that like, I just get laughing so hard, I start crying. Like it was just amazing. So I did that. What else? What else have I been up to? Not a whole heck of a lot. Yesterday I wound up walking all the way to the James River. So the James River is the river that runs through Richmond, Virginia. It's actually, what are my factoids? It's the 12th largest river in the US that is contained within one single state, which of course would be Virginia. It is also the only river that has class 3 rapids within sight of skyscrapers in a major metropolitan area, right? Like there are actual rapids on the James River here in Richmond, which is pretty rare, obviously, very rare. So I walked all the way there. It's actually not that far for me. I mean, it was a decent walk, but it's not like an unwalkable distance. I just had never gotten up the motivation to do it. And yesterday morning I was like, I want to go for a nice long walk. And originally I'd meant to maybe get within sight of the river and then turn around and come home. What I wound up doing was actually walking to the river, and then there's like a little island that you can get onto, which is sort of like pedestrian only. So I got onto that, and then I got onto a footbridge that actually crosses the river and goes to the other side, and there's some nice little paths and stuff over there. So yeah, that was really nice. I took some footage, so hopefully I will have been, you know, maybe playing that as I've been talking about it. But yeah, it was just really beautiful, and I know it's a very popular thing, you know, for people to go over there during the summer because, you know, you can go out on the rocks and sort of be out on the river and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was really fun to do yesterday, although it left me completely worn out by the time I got back because I'd walked maybe 4 or 5 miles round trip by the time I got back. So I just spent the rest of the day just like being a lazy lump, not doing anything. I mean, I finished the sleeve of my sweaters, so I guess something good came out of it. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what else has been interesting lately. I'm looking at something very interesting, so I will show you guys that and then maybe I'll call it a day. But I'm going to reach behind the camera. So, as you know, I am a sucker for plants. This plant is actually not mine. This was Wesley's when he was here. But he bought this orchid, I don't know, over the summer maybe. And it, you know, had flowered and then all the flowers fell off. And so then the stalk part died. And typically that's the end of an orchid for most people because, you know, once the flowers are gone, it's kind of like, well, okay, I guess I'm done with it. But he had read that you can regrow orchids and they will flower again because of course this part down here, like this is sort of like the main part of the orchid, like that doesn't die when the stalk dies, right? So what you do is you trim back the stalk that is dead. Once it's dead, you trim it back really close, and then if you are giving it everything that it needs, you know, enough light, enough water, food, and everything like that, it will grow a new stalk, which as you can see, ours did. And it's actually going to produce flowers. Let me see if I can set this down really quietly so it doesn't bump the microphone. But as you can see right here, these are little flower buds. So there's a couple on the end here. So I am pretty sure I have nursed it back to health, and it is going to produce more flowers, and I'm super duper excited about it. I'm getting choked up. No, I'm just choking on my own spit. But anyway, I am just very excited about it, and Wesley is too, obviously. He's very upset that it has decided to do this once he left, but I told him that once it starts flowering, I will send him pictures of it, like, every single day. But I actually don't even remember what color the flowers are on it, and I'm assuming they'll be the same color as they were before. I think maybe they were purple and white, but yeah, I just think this is super exciting. So if you have orchids and all the flowers fall off and die, don't get rid of it. If you want, right, you can probably regrow the stalk. You just have to give it everything that its little plant heart wants, and it will probably regrow. So that's pretty cool. I don't know, maybe this won't work for like I know the nearby grocery store sells orchids. This one came from a pretty expensive greenhouse. Like, this was like a $25 orchid. So maybe only nice ones will do that. I don't know, but I think it's pretty exciting, and I would definitely try it again. If I had another orchid, or when this stock dies, I will try it again, see if I can bring it back to life again. We'll see. But yeah, that's something really cool that's been going on in my life. But like I said, I think that'll be it for me. I have to go check on my soup and stuff. So that's going to be it for me today. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. And hopefully I'll see you guys next week. If not next week, the week after. But yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.